Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 467 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, as I talk to employers all over the country, I'm hearing a consistent theme that candidates are not coming to the interviews dressed properly for the corporate world. I want to talk to our next guest about what recent grads or soon to be grads should be wearing to an interview in order to make the best first impression on your future employer. Let's talk to our next guest. Curtis Butler spent 30 years in finance as an investor and client-facing executive at industry-leading firms, including JP Morgan. He has built and led teams and has been on both sides of the interview table hundreds of times. He has a keen understanding of what moves a resume to the top of the pile and what soft skills are required to stand out in an interview. Throughout his career, Curtis has always made time for mentoring and has provided individualized coaching to scores of college and graduate students at his alma maters, which is Union College, and also Johns Hopkins University. He has also stepped in to help children of friends and colleagues escape the frustration of a job search and embark on successful careers. His passion for coaching students and young professionals led Curtis to launch Guided Ascent Career Coaching this year in 2024 with Zoom-based one-on-one coaching designed to help clients define their path, to plan the steps that can lead them there, and apply the job search strategies that have proven successful over time, regardless of the industry. Welcome to the show, Curtis.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Hey, it is an honor to be here, for you to be here. And I tell you what, anytime you want to come and talk about jobs and careers with college students, I am all ears. I know our audience is as well. They are hyper focused on getting their dream job after college. I promise you.
That's very good to hear, because the stats are a little bit daunting out there, and my job is to help them get on the right side of those stats.
I love it. I love it. Now, you decided on Union College for your undergraduate experience. I happen to be a Tennessean, so I certainly know a thing or two about Union College, but why was Union College your choice?
So this might be a different Union College. So Union College in Schenectady, New York.
There
There's
you
another one
go.
down south.
Yeah.
So I grew up upstate New York. My dad's a country lawyer, went to Albany Law School, which is affiliated with Union College. And I made a visit there and I said, this is pretty much the prettiest place I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was really good academics. It was a small school, 2000 students-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had a great experience there. I'm very glad I went there.
I love it. I love it. I'm a University at Buffalo grad, so I know a thing or two also about upstate New York. And you're right. I mean, that campus is absolutely stunning. So it certainly makes a lot of sense to me. And, I love that you've been mentoring college students for such a long time. I think when I speak to college students, it seems like they're always looking on the other side of the fence in order to determine if they're on the right path or not in terms of their major, in terms of their upcoming career. So how do you decide what is the right career for all the students that you work with?
That's a great question. And it also depends on where they are in their journey. The ideal time to meet someone and have the conversation about the college major is before they go to college, right? There's a whole industry out there built around getting kids into school, but who's focused on getting them out?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have career services on campus. They're very overtaxed, right? They don't have a lot of time for the students. They do what they can, and I want to partner with them. But the conversations about majors that you really want to take place as early as possible. And there is really some incredible research that has come out just in the past, say, 1 to 2 years on this topic, on what really influences the outcome for graduates. And one of them, and I'll encourage your listeners to check it out, just Google talent disrupted. It's a pretty incredible piece of 10-year research, which basically shows the most important driver to influence or give you a positive outcome after graduation is your choice of major. The second most important is internships. So make sure you get at least one internship during college that is moving in the direction of your chosen career. But to your question about how do you choose that career, for me, that's the initial conversation. It's where do we find that nexus between what you love, where your real passion is, and what skills you have and where your talents lie.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be most successful when you can find that sweet spot that combines those two things. And often what I find in conversations with students is they choose a major because someone told them it'd be a good thing to do. And when we have the conversation, really get down to imagine yourself when you're 30 years old, right? You're hanging out with your friends. Forget the fact you're talking to me. You're hanging out with your friends on a Saturday night and you say, you know what? By the time I'm 30, I want to X. That's where we start. Because you're really going to invest the time and resources and put the energy into what you really love doing. And therefore, that's what you'll become really good at. Taking a job or taking a career path just because somebody else said it's a good one might actually prove to be financially lucrative and might turn out to be a good career, but it may not be all that fulfilling for you. So we always start with, what do you love? What excites you? And let's see how we can fit where you are and what you can do between now and then to make it happen.
Yeah. I like that second piece too, in terms of what are you actually good at too, right? A lot of people have interests, but the question is, are you good at it? And I think everybody has some unique talent, and sometimes that takes a little bit of exploring in order to figure out exactly what that is. And I'd love for college students to get started early. You mentioned having an internship in your major. I think that's incredibly important. My son is a data science major, and luckily he already got an internship after his freshman year at the Data Science Institute on his campus, which is just a
Outstanding.
fantastic start. So, do you have a networking plan for college students so that way they can get started on internships and jobs well before they even get to graduation?
Yes, and again, the internships are starting earlier and earlier because it's become so absurdly competitive for lots of reasons, but one of them being all the applications are online now.
Mm,
So everyone in the world sees a job posting at the same time. And typically you'll get hundreds of applications for certain things in finance at very large firms. You'll get thousands
mhm.
of applications for a single job. But for that reason, you want to start early and you want to make sure that you are putting the skills on your resume that'll help you get that internship. So what I want students to do is arrive on campus freshman year thinking, what do I need to do? It's about steps. It's not about some daunting thing. How do I get a job at the age of 18? It's what steps do I need to take that are going to position me best for that. So for those internships, I think it's really about, and you asked the question of networking, specifically networking. And the more opportunity I have to talk to high school students and college freshmen, the better on this topic, because you know a lot more people than you think. The best place and time to start is when you're in high school. Who do your parents know? Who are your
Mhm.
parents' friends? What are they doing? Are any of them in an industry that you're interested in? And if so, reach out to them. They're inclined to take your call. They know you. You could call them friends. And it's also terrific practice speaking with adults about professional topics. I don't have to tell you, Michael, in your family, I'm sure you've noticed that 90% of communication between teenagers is like this, looking
Mhm.
down at a small screen. That doesn't teach them the communication, the professionalism that interviewers really want to see. So the best place to get that practice is where it's easiest, where it's softest, right? People that you know already. And what I always tell students about networking is you never know who they know. So very often you'll talk to somebody, you'll talk to a friend of your parents, you'll talk to somebody who comes over to the barbecue and you'll say, listen, I just wanted to talk to you because I know you work in finance or I know you're an engineer. I'm interested in going into that myself. You will pique their interest. And they will say, oh, that's fantastic. Have you thought about this? Or there's a person I think you should talk to because I heard recently they're looking for young interns.
Mhm.
You never know. So it's shots on goal, but start where the probability of success is the highest. And that's with people you know and friends of friends. And then for college students specifically, it's alumni. right? We all want to have some connection to the schools that we went to, right? To feel that it was a rewarding experience, and we want to keep that tie. So when I get an email, or what I really recommend is a message on LinkedIn saying, saw your profile. I really think you could be helpful. Would love to hop on a call for 15 minutes or 5 minutes to get any advice you might have for someone who wants to embark on a career in that industry.
Mhm.
And your hit rate is going to be much higher with alums. So those two groups, people that you already know, and then alumni of your school, you just want to hit that group up as much as you can for the two reasons of you never know. And you really need to build those communication skills. The more 5 or 15-minute calls you can have, the better you're going to get.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I totally agree. I love starting with family, friends. I think that's the first place that I started. It was just low hanging fruit. And then after that, moving to LinkedIn is really great, and sending messages to people in your industry that are either alumni of your institution or alumni of your fraternity or sorority. If you happen to be a member of a fraternity or sorority, that puts you kind of in a national level. And now you start reaching out to other universities as well, because both your alumni of your institution and alumni of your fraternity and sorority are going to be very receptive to talking to you. Why? Because you're a college student and you have nothing to sell them. So they know that, it's going to take 15 minutes of my time, but at least I'm not going to be sold to. And this person just wants advice in terms of how to get into my company or my industry. And that's something they would do. Now, it might not be today. Understand that we're busy and we have schedules that are fully packed up. It might be a week or two from now, but we will meet with you. And so I think that's excellent, excellent
And
advice.
you bring up an excellent point. I think you're right about the fraternities and sororities as
Yeah.
well. I think that might even be a tighter link,
Yep.
right?
No
That's a
question about it.
self-selected group.
Hmm.
But the last piece of advice I want to give college students on the networking, and LinkedIn is really the best way, because most people now, it's a Microsoft owned company now. Most people are really trusting that system and are on LinkedIn, if not daily, on a regular basis. Most people, at least in the professional world. The key is make your ask clear, because you only have 300 characters. Make your ask clear and make your demand very limited. So I've seen messages before, and I've helped people correct this, but would love to grab lunch. No on the lunch.
No.
If you had 5 minutes to speak with me, I'd love to get your advice on how I can best enter the industry.
Yeah. Great
People
points.
then say, wow, number one, they're only asking for 5 minutes. I can spare 5 minutes. If it turns into more, which it usually does, that's great. But number two, they get me. They get that I'm a busy professional who isn't hanging around, keeping lunch dates open for college students I don't know, right? So respecting the person on the other side, they'll feel, okay, I'm not at risk here of this getting out of control. They already understand. They're keeping it to just a few minutes. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yep, great points. Now, you spent 30 years in finance as an investor and a client-facing executive at JP Morgan and other firms. When you get a resume from a new college graduate, what stands out to you? What helps to bring that resume to the top of your pile?
Great question. So there's really two important aspects which are determined according to the research in less than 6 seconds. Number one, look and feel. Does this feel like an organized, well thought out, well structured document, right? Many students, for example, put 3 times more text on the page than really belongs there, because they're always thinking about these application tracking systems. You can do both, keep a resume concise and has a very good look and feel, which gives me a positive feeling when I see it, and still appeal to the ATSs, because you're using the right kinds of keywords that will get flagged. So that's number one. And number two, I want to see relevant experience. Yes, the school you went to matters, but as I mentioned at the outset, it matters much less than you think. The most important thing is, what is your major? Number two is, did you have relevant internships? So I want to see that easily and quickly. I want you to focus, for example, really, brass tacks here. You want to focus your bolding text just on those things. You don't bold dates. Who cares about the dates, right? You want to take my eye directly to the most important things, because recognize that you have less than 10 seconds to make an impression.
Yeah, great points. I like that. And what about the cover letter? Are there any tips on that? Are people still reading the cover letter?
So everyone has their views on cover letters.
Yeah.
My experience tells me the following. Number one, cover letters are perhaps just as important, if not more important at this point than your resume. Why? Because there are hundreds of applications for every even entry-level job, really good one. So many of the resumes look alike, right? How many economics majors, or there are not as many data scientist majors, which is terrific for your son. And that's a separate topic. Talk about majors. That's a great major.
Yeah.
Right. With very, very high outcomes, quantitative and kind of more current in terms of demand.
Mm-hmm.
So the outcomes are terrific in that space.
Yeah.
But in many areas, particularly in liberal arts, your resume is going to look almost like everybody else's. So you can stand out a lot by presenting yourself properly or presenting yourself well and distinguish yourself in a cover letter. That's number one. Number two, keep it concise. Just like I said about networking, I would say 60 to 70% of the cover letters that I get from the students I work with, when I ask them, give me a sample resume and cover letter, we'll work on that. 60 to 70% of them are twice as long as they should be. 6 paragraphs. So again, always put yourself in the shoes of the person who's going to read it. The first person might be a talent acquisition person, an HR person. You want to kind of just get through that. But if there's a chance that the hiring manager is going to see it, you want it to be short, to the point, highlight what you're asking for, why you're the right person for that, and you would welcome the opportunity to join their team. So my mantra, and it's going to be a part of an eventual book, I'm assuming, is confident humility wins the game. In the job search game, it's all about confident humility. The confidence is, these are the skills I've acquired and make me believe that I'm the right person for this role. But parenthetically, I also know that I'm really young and I have a lot to learn. So I would love to learn from you, right? I'd really welcome the opportunity to join your team and be mentored by somebody of your caliber. So that combination can't help but look good to the person who's reading it. The key is I have to be able to read it quickly or I'm not going to read it at all.
Yeah. Really good advice. That's really, really strong. I wanted to get back to kind of what I was talking about earlier in that intro, talking about dress during the interview. I'm just hearing from employers that for some reason there's a disconnect in terms of what they're expecting this potential employer to be dressed like when they come in for an interview and then the interviewee. So, what should people be wearing for an interview or for work these days?
Sure. It's a great question. And I want to say to college students, we understand why you might not know what to do here. COVID messed things up, right?
Mhm.
Students who just graduated from college were high school seniors when COVID started. So their senior year in high school was all messed up and it was all on remote, and likely much of their freshman year in college. So they've lost real time. They didn't have the same opportunity that many other students have had and will have to build these experiences that we're talking about and get that practice of engaging with the professional world. So I cut students a lot of slack, but this is really, as you said before, low hanging fruit. This is really easy.
Yeah.
So number one, suit and tie is no longer the standard. It was back in the day, right? We would never think of not wearing a tie to an interview. Those days are gone. But you want to wear a collared shirt, right? And if it's a formal, proper interview, you want to probably wear a button-down collar shirt. Right? It's a summer day. You and I are having a nice conversation. I'm wearing a polo. But
Yep.
for that interview, just as you're dressed, Michael, a button-down collar shirt is the way to go. And then there's a whole other subject that I deal with students or help students on is, since so many of the interviews, the vast majority at this point, do take place over Zoom or some equivalent, you want to think about what the person on the other side is seeing. So again, very often, I forgive them, very often college students have their dorm room behind them with open closets and clothes hanging on chairs, right? Or this happens just as often. And I get it. I understand the constraints. Roommates walking in and they do that side glance, you hear the door close and then they come back. It's just too distracting for the students. So it's really important, yes, to dress properly. That's the easiest part. But also, if you're doing this from campus, or if you're doing it from home in your parents' house, find a room where you're going to have privacy. You're not going to be interrupted. And just as important, you personally aren't going to be distracted,
Mm.
right? And preferably a time when the lawn's not being mowed.
Very good. Now, I know there are certain questions that are always going to come up in any interviewing situation. It seems that that dreaded question always, excuse me, comes up, which is tell me about yourself. What should people be answering to that question?
I'm so glad you brought that up. So it's become, I would say, the primary first question for a lot of reasons. The most important of which is think real world. A hiring manager is looking at his calendar or her calendar and sees, oh, I have an interview at 11:30 today. And they say, okay, that just kind of breaks up my day. So 5 minutes before the interview, they click on that, they pull up the resume, send it to the printer. And on their way to the meeting room, they grab it off the printer, shake your hand, sit down and say, tell me about yourself, because they haven't done any work. The irony is it's the absolute best opportunity an interviewee has to tell the hiring manager what to think of them. It's absolutely my favorite question by far.
Yeah.
So I coach students a lot on building your own personal narrative, a less than 60-second version of your story that doesn't start with your latest internship. It starts with your story. Because again, number one, people hire people. We still haven't gotten to the point where we're hiring AI. And second, people aren't resumes with legs, right? We all have stories, and those stories differentiate us from other candidates. If there are 5 other people in this final interview round, how are you going to stand out? You all have the same resume, right? You want to stand out as much personally. So I say this all the time, and students' jaws drop. The most remarked upon item on my resume after 35 years is something I did when I was 18 years old. I'm an Eagle Scout.
Mhm.
And to this day, it's what people mention or ask about the most. Why? Because it tells them something about me, what kind of person I am. Talks about leadership and integrity and commitment to something serious instead of just fooling around when I was in high school.
Mhm.
So that already tells them a ton about me. And if I didn't mention it or didn't have that personal item on my resume, they wouldn't know. So I tell people the response to that dreaded, amazing question starts with, I'm one of 5 kids, grew up upstate New York, son of a country lawyer and a nurse. These are the values we had in our home. And so I was a really good student and I pursued this. And this is how I ended up in finance. And in finance, for me, it was all about building my level of responsibility and broadening my reach, broadening my focus. So growing over my career and adding more and getting broader, which led me to the job that I'm in today and to the opportunity in front of me now. And if I can do that in 60 seconds with a 30+ year career, 22-year-olds can do it in 60 seconds as well. So I think it's a huge opportunity to have them checking boxes, the interviewer checking boxes already. Like, oh, they know how to work hard. He was digging ditches and planting trees when he was a teenager, right? These are the values that they grew up in. I'm going to be able to rely on her and trust her, right? This is the kind of the work that they've had before. They had a really tough boss already. I'm checking boxes, and the interview's not even 2 minutes in. You really can win it at the beginning.
Yeah, that response definitely gets an A plus, no question about it. I mean, he started the story talking about his values from his parents. That already tells me something about what type of person he is and what his character is. If you throw in the fact that you're an Eagle Scout, that tells me you're resilient, you have perseverance, and you're going to follow things through to the end. That's not something that you can accomplish in 6 months. It takes much longer. I know that. And so again, all of these things are clues in the first 2 minutes that tell me something about you, and it really does stand out quite a bit. And also, I would just add, come up with some kind of success story. I think, telling stories a great way to kind of showcase who you are and a great way to answer that question, to tell me about yourself. And if it's a success story, just come prepared to tell that success story, whatever that is, about your internship or your job where you had something that just was wild success. I think that's a great way, a great intro into who you are. And if you can tell stories, it's just a great communication piece. It also shows you got great communication skills. So,
A
so
hundred,
think about it.
100% on that. And you make a great point about stories, because
Yeah.
all of the research that's coming out now from in the public speaking arena is audiences will stick with you longer if you engage them through a story
Yeah.
as opposed to a litany of facts.
Right.
Really make it personal and make it something they can relate to through a story, which is why I work with a lot of student athletes. And what's so interesting about the student athletes is they don't know how amazing they are,
Hmm.
because they are. They're basically full-time students and full-time athletes. When I talk to football players, soccer players, hockey players during the season, it's more than 30 hours a week committed to their sport. On top of the fact they have a 3.9 in their engineering major. Like, that is so impressive. And because they've lived their entire lives this way, they're not quite aware of how impressive that is. So I work with them on making sure that that comes out in the story. To your point about, wow, that checks a lot of boxes. You were able to manage both of those things and come out with these results. That's really impressive. No, you're not going to be a football player for the rest of your life, but you demonstrated you know how to prioritize. You know how to basically focus on the things that matter, right? And get things done.
Hmm. Hmm.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah. Now, I know we talked a little bit about communication skills here. What are some of the soft skills that employers are looking for in that interview today?
Yeah, and that's again, the research is really eye-opening, that employers, when they're polled, say that the communication is the most important skill they're looking for in an interviewee.
Mm-hmm.
Almost 100% of employers say that, but they're finding those skills in less than half of the college students that they talk to. Again, a lot of this is in the culture, right? We do all of our talking this way, right?
Hmm.
No
Hmm.
real conversation. Kind of the art of conversation is kind of lost, particularly for young people. They don't have the practice talking to professionals. So that's the thing we talked about, the networking. The other is leadership skills, right? That is, to your point about stories in your resume, however you can demonstrate leadership, it says a lot about you, right? And if it increases the confidence of the person you're speaking with, like, okay, they're closer to that maturity that I'm looking for, because they've already been in, to your point about the Eagle Scout, right? Wow, that's a leadership position.
Hmm.
That tells a lot about maturity. That's what they're looking for. So the dress says a lot about maturity. Your background says a lot about maturity, right?
Hmm.
Are you ready to step into a role in the professional world? Your goal in an interview has to be viewed as the youngest and newest member of the team. Before you even get there, it determines the questions that you ask, right? You want to sound like someone who's already ready to work, and you're asking the questions that people in that industry are asking as well. Your whole job is to not look like a kid, but to look like the next young professional on their team.
Very, very good. I like that a lot. One last question I wanted to ask you about is how do you negotiate salary, benefits, and then make a decision if you have multiple offers for jobs?
There's a lot of secret sauce in there. And but number one is the biggest advice I give to college students around this, because I've had several conversations even recently, right, with recent graduations
Hmm.
about multiple offers.
Hmm.
Number one, when you're just graduated from college and you have multiple opportunities, the amount you get paid when you're 22 years old is probably the least important of your considerations, unless you have to pay the bills and you can't do it otherwise.
Hmm.
If you're hot, the median income for new graduates is $51,000. So if you have one offer at $50,000 and one offer at $55,000, that's irrelevant. Over the arc of your career, it's not even noticeable. What's important is, where am I going to learn the most? Where am I going to build my skills the most? And to me, the most important is, which manager is going to mentor me? Who's the person I really want to work for? And that $5,000 difference in the beginning literally will mean nothing if you are able to advance in your career because you are fostered, mentored, and really focused on so you can build your skills, that's the most important thing you need to look for, you want to look for in a new job. Not so much the pay. Pay is important, of course, right? But differences in salary when you're just starting out are probably the least important on the list.
Great advice. Really, really good stuff. Now, I do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. That's my weakness. So the next time I'm in the Darien, Connecticut area, where do you think I should go in order to get a great meal?
I love that question. So Darien, Connecticut is right off of exit 11 on 95 South.
Yep.
And within 30 seconds off the exit, you're going right through our very little downtown. Our favorite family restaurant, which is very open and it's really good food. It's a kind of a fun atmosphere. It's called 1020 Post. That's the address and that's the name of the restaurant. That's our family favorite. Just about next door is a really good one. It's kind of Mexican, pan-Mexican cuisine called Bodega. That's a good one when my wife and I are kind of taking time for ourselves.
I love it. Great recommendations. Great part of the country. Really, really good food. So I'll definitely have to stop in and check that out next time I am in the area. I love it. So if our student listeners, if they want to book you for one-on-one coaching, or maybe they want to book you as a speaker on their college campus, where should they go in order to connect with you?
Sure. And thank you, Michael. Everything's on my website. It's guidedascentcoaching.com. On every page on the website, you can book a free consultation where we can talk about what your goals are, where you are in your career search, and how we might be able to help. And then for speaking engagements, there's a separate section on the website specifically addressing the opportunity for us to come and talk to students and faculty and discuss these very important topics. And again, there's a nice little button there where you can book a call.
Excellent. Guidedascentcoaching.com. Go and check it out and then communicate with Curtis Butler in terms of what your needs are. This has been a fantastic conversation and certainly very needed for all the college students who are listening. So I appreciate you taking the time and being with us today. Thank you so much, Curtis.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Fantastic. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Curtis, I want you to like it on social media and I want you to share it with other college students who need some help and some guidance in terms of their careers. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.